You can taste something, but to understand what and why you're tasting it starts at, and even really before the distillery itself, it starts with the selection of the casks, the selection of the grains, the decision on paper of how they're going to malt their barley, how long it's going to ferment in the wash. There's so many different elements that play into a glass of whiskey. Glenfarclas. Apparently about 80% of Glenfarclas casks are sherry. I believe a mass majority of them are Oloroso. This is the 12-year-old Glenfarclas. They do make a younger 10-year-old whiskey. They also make a non-age statement 105, which is technically a cask strength. It's a true cask strength whiskey. I'm going to have to order that from somewhere else or get that from somewhere because I can't even get that within the States. It's not a real heavily dark whiskey, being that they're saying that it is matured with heavily with Oloroso sherry. They've got to be some, second fill casks in here. This is really neat too because as I'm looking here, there is a little bit, I don't want to say Scotch mist, but there's this light cloudiness that I'm seeing develop in the glass here. But yeah, the color, I'd say this is really quite a light, like almost a gold hue straw, like a deep straw color. No water added to this right now. Right now the legs are holding on pretty good. They're still hanging on. Okay, now they're starting to drop off. Okay, and there's still some up here that haven't even, there's a whole ring up here, hasn't even released yet, hasn't even dropped down yet. All of Glenfarclas, it doesn't say it on the bottle, but they'll proudly say it in different interviews, and there's so much talk that Glenfarclas does not add any color to the whiskey. So this is supposedly a very pure color, or from what has been in the cask, and I'm not sure exactly what process they use to source their sherry casks, and that's an episode for another day. Yeah, it's a very, very fruit-driven, dried fruit-driven nose. Almost a little floral. This nose is really nice. I've had this bottle for going on about 3 months now. Wow, probably 4 months now. I've had this bottle for quite a while, so it has had some serious time to air out. And just recently I've drank a little bit more so I could kind of take some notes on it again. So it's really neat to see because I would have said something totally different about this whiskey, especially on the nose, 3 months ago. It's changed from this, oh wow, that's a deep burst of sherry influence, to I want more. Let's get into some real descriptors here. I mean, this is really, really sherry berry driven. So robust. Easy on the nose. I don't know if I mentioned, this is only 43% alcohol by volume. I've been a little bit sad because a lot of the bottles that I've been purchasing lately have been under 46 alcohol, or under 46% alcohol by volume. And I am very, very particular, usually before I started this channel, almost every single bottle that I reviewed, or almost every single bottle that I purchased, was 46% or greater, unless I was just checking something out and I really heard good stuff about something. It might not have been the safest route to only do that, but when you're a person that doesn't have big money, I mean, look behind me. I don't have a massive shelf full of these whiskeys. I mean, this stuff, when I'm buying this stuff, this is a big, this is my hobby. This isn't just something that I'm like, oh, I've got some whiskey and I'm going to go drink on it. I mean, this is something that I have to put my hard work into to buy these, and I know it goes for a lot of people. So I understand when I'm reviewing these bottles, my script score may be different than somebody that is reviewing hundreds of bottles. They may rate something lower, or I may rate something higher just because I'm saying, no, this is actually really good based on what I've been drinking. I don't get to venture much outside of 14-year-old whiskeys very often because I don't feel like a person in my status has the right to go and spend over $100 on a bottle, or even close to that on a general occasion. So most of the bottles I'm looking for, I mean, this was, I believe, $55 plus tax out the door, 54 something. So for a 12-year-old bottle, Glenfarclas does a good job at keeping it reasonable. Their 10-year-old version is under 50 out the door. I think it's 47 something plus tax. So these guys are independently owned. They're one of the only, the number of independent distilleries has grown in the number of years in the last little while, but it's been very rare that a distillery is independently owned, and it has stayed that way for, I believe, since the place was initially opened, and even before it was legal to distill, these guys were distilling. So I am getting a little bit of caramel here. I really like this. That's why I'm talking so much about this, because I'm really enjoying Glenfarclas. Oh, it's so nice. Even without no water, I mean, this is just very, very pleasant. All right, we need to get into some tasters. Initially, without water, it is a little sharp. It's spicy. It's still fruit driven. I think this needs a little bit of water. I'm going to get into this. I'm not going to waste much more time talking about it without water, because this water, in my opinion, needs some water. 6 drops in there, maybe, roughly. Don't want to go too many. Can always add more if it's not enough. That's why we add water, folks. Instantly. A much better experience. The spiciness has subsided, and to me that's a good thing, because I don't know if you've heard me say this. I say it a lot in my head. I'm not a big fan of heavy spice in anything. Except food, like in my sweet stuff. Anything mixed spicy and sweet, it just, on my taste buds, they combat each other. So adding that little bit of water has removed some of the spice. We're getting more fruity notes coming out now, because before they were there, but now they're more fresher fruit notes. Rather than them being these dried heavy fruits. I love how this soft sherry has just come forward with that water, because before it was a very pungent sherry note. It was very obvious that it's a sherry matured. But now I feel like I'm getting a mixture of the American oak from the bourbon, or their hogsheads that they generally use, and this mixture of the sherry. A little bit of vanilla. Very nice. I mean, it's this sweet malt experience. A very pungent whiskey, a very in-your-face whiskey. Again, especially right when you buy this. You might not like this right when you buy it, or you might love it. I mean, if you really, really like sherry and you're very used to it and understand the notes you're going to get from it, that might, lean you towards this bottle. But give it some time. Let it sit in your glass. Before I recorded this, I let it set for about 10, 12 minutes. Let's get into the finish here. I haven't gone through the finish. This is so good. A medium to long finish, but it's rather dry. It's a good dry, because it's a sweet dry. It is definitely a sherry-driven experience. If you like sherried whiskeys, if you like whiskey, this is a bottle. I mean, this has become one of my, and I can't believe I'm saying this either, based on how I felt when I opened this bottle 3 months ago. I was really kind of walking around the yard, looking at it, sipping on it. And I was feeling a little bit luxurious because it is such a different whiskey. You can tell it's Scotch whiskey. This is like when you open this up, you're going, this is the roots of Scotch whiskey. But I have a lot I want to say about Glenfarclas, but I'm going to save that for another day. I'm going to be doing a collaboration with a guy, Whiskey Straight Ale, in the near future, and we're likely going to be reviewing the Glenfarclas 10 together. So I'm really excited for that. If you haven't checked out Whiskey Straight Ale, and that's whiskey with an E. He is from Ireland, so their whiskey over there, I believe they have the E's on their whiskeys, but he generally does a lot of Scotch whiskeys too. So, but yeah, keep an eye out for that as well. As far as a script score on this, I'm going to say right around, I mean, based on the price that we're paying for this, around $55 for a 12-year-old bottle. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but when we really think about 12 years of something sitting in casks, in dunnage warehouses, and I don't care where they are, somebody's storing this stuff for 12 years for us, that's worth a little bit of money every year. So I'm going to say about 88, 89, whatever you want to take with that. That is among one of the highest scores that I've had out of all, I think, 15 reviews that I've had so far. Based on the price for me and the flavor and, you know, taking some time with this, and seriously, take your time with this. Don't just open the bottle and say, nope, this isn't any good. Make sure, I mean, I like to, when I'm doing evaluations of bottles, I always, from the first pour I take, I really like to think about that, what it tastes like. I smell it, and sometimes I'll have that glass for, you know, an hour just smelling it and sitting there and smelling it and tasting it and seeing how it changes. And then, you know, letting it go about halfway down. And then in the next, you know, 3-4 weeks to a few months, having it all the way down there and just seeing how it changes and being able to explain that. And some of these different reviews, I haven't had that opportunity with some of the smaller bottles. So, you know, I try to keep that in mind as well. Previews for next week. So the first person to comment in the comment section what I should review, and I'm going to give 4 different options. I'm going to say we've got the Glenmorangie 10-year original, Glenmorangie Neck to Door, I believe that's a 12-year, Clynelish 14, Talisker 10. Anybody, whoever wants to pick that, just let me know in the comments, first person to mention it. I want to say thanks to everybody who has helped me along the way. I just hit 100 subscribers about a week and something back. Thank you to everybody who continues to comment. I've really enjoyed talking to every single person, these people that I don't even know or I can't hardly put a face to the name. Thanks for joining me, everybody, regardless. Really enjoy all this. Let me know if you guys need anything or how I can do anything better for you. Slanjeva. Such good whiskey. Why didn't I buy it sooner? So many whiskeys.
Finally, Glenfarclas.